So today we are here at the Ohio History Center. I am super excited to head inside and learn a little bit more about the history of the state of Ohio. And even just from the onset walking inside towards the front, it is a very beautiful building. I will have to ask when I get inside what the history is of the building itself, and maybe they'll be able to tell me who the architect was. Let's go. So it looks like this is the entrance to the office and the museum as well as the archives. So let's go in and check it out. Here as you enter, they have a map showing the different galleries and exhibits, along with what you can find on each level of the building. There is a plaza for relaxing and enjoying some drinks or snacks, as well as the archive on the third floor and the library in the basement section. And as you first enter the museum, they have a 1948 Crosley station wagon. This station wagon was produced in Camp Washington, Ohio by the Crosley Motor Company, which was founded by Pal Crosley Jr., and the company operated from 1939 to 1952 with a brief cease in production during World War II. The Ohio History Center is actually a part of the Ohio Connection, so if you get a membership for a year, there's a whole swath of museums throughout the state that you can visit for free. The first exhibit as you leave the front desk towards the main gallery highlights the role Central Ohio played as a hub for fashion design and retail innovation. Ohio department stores actually pioneered retail strategies that were duplicated across the country and continue to be used by online and discount retailers to this day. One of their examples of Ohio's rich fashion history was clothing from the store Justice. And that sure made me feel old because I can totally remember shopping there when I was a kid. And as you continue ahead, you enter the main central portion of the building and come across these absolutely stunning staircases and steps up to a common area. It really felt like you were taken back in time to the 1970s. It was incredible just to stop for a minute and take a look and really notice the intricate and unique design that this building offered. The kind woman at the front desk told me that this building is considered one of the state's best premier examples of brutalist architecture. It originally opened in 1970 and was designed by the architect W. Byron Ireland and Associates. Inside the Ohio History Center, the Nature of Ohio exhibit takes you on a journey through the state's changing landscapes, from the glaciers that shaped Ohio thousands of years ago to today's forests, prairies, and wetlands. The exhibit shows how nature and people have shaped each other over time. You'll see Ice Age fossils, native wildlife displays, and hands-on science stations that explain ecosystems across the state. It's a reminder that Ohio's story isn't just about people, it's also about the land, water, and wildlife that makes the Buckeye State so unique. And just beyond these fossils, they had a great exhibit where you could see different animals that are native to the state of Ohio. And this bear here totally freaked me out when I first saw it and turned around. Right next to this display, they had a great place called Discovery Park for smaller kids to run around, get their energy out, and still learn a little bit at the same time. There's even that little raccoon type animal up there, and then for some reason I was really drawn to this sun that they had in the corner. I would love to have that in my living room at home or something like that. It looks so happy. One of the exhibits they had in this section of the museum was a slice of a ginormous tree. Each ring on the tree represents a different year in its life, and it was incredible to read these different descriptions of events in history that were happening when the tree had reached that particular size. All the way from Lindenberg crossing the Atlantic at the very end of the tree's life, all the way to the iron plow being patented at the beginning of the tree's life. It really put into perspective just the scale of time and the history of trees themselves. This exhibit showed different nests of birds that can be found in the state of Ohio. Each species of bird uses different materials and methods to make their nests. They even had this replica of the nest of America's national bird, the bald eagle, and it was gigantic. Here they mentioned some specific species which were native to Ohio but have now become extinct over time. In this next room, they had an expansive rock collection which covered the geological history of the state of Ohio. There was a lot of very different and pretty rocks to take a look at, examine, and learn a little bit more about how they're formed. I was also caught by this striking Victorian bird collecting display. It was really stunning to see the preservation of these birds. But unfortunately, overcollecting along with loss of habitat did lead to the extinction of some species of birds such as the passenger pigeon. Leaving that section of the museum, we come to the Follow the Flag exhibit. This exhibit explores how flags have symbolized identity, unity, and change throughout Ohio's history. From early military banners to community and protest flags, each design tells a story about the people who carried it and the causes that they believed in. The exhibit shows how a simple piece of fabric can represent pride, struggle, and belonging, and how flags continue to reflect the evolving story of Ohio and its people. Next, as we head towards the Building the American Dream exhibit, we learn the story of how generations of Ohioans worked, struggled, and organized to build better lives. Through labor movements, industrial growth, and social change, the exhibit highlights how everyday people pushed for fair wages, safer workplaces, and new opportunities. It showed that the American dream wasn't just given, it was built through perseverance, collective action, and the ongoing fight for equality. They also had these great little tabs that you could lift up for each year and learn different facts from pop culture to politics and sports. Next, we come to my favorite exhibit in the entire museum. It is the Lustron House exhibit. It tells the story of a bold post-World War II idea, affordability, and modern housing for everyday Americans. After the war, millions of families were looking for quick, inexpensive homes, and the Lustron Corporation believed the answer was steel. Lustron houses were made from enameled steel panels inside and out. They didn't need paint, they resisted fire, and they were designed to be easy to clean and maintain. Even the cabinets, closets, and ceiling tiles were steel. These homes were shipped in pieces and assembled on-site, almost like a giant kit, promising a faster way to achieve the American dream of home ownership. Ohio played a major role in this story. Many Lustron homes were built across the state, and Ohio remains one of the places where the greatest number still survive to this day. The exhibit lets you step inside a real Lustron house and experience what daily life was like in the late 1940s and early 1950s. But the exhibit also explains why the dream didn't last. Despite their innovation, Lustron homes were expensive to produce, difficult to transport, and faced resistance from traditional builders and lenders. By the 1950s, the company closed, leaving behind a small but lasting legacy. The Lustron House exhibit shows how innovation, optimism, and risk came together in a moment of American history, and how even failed ideas can leave a lasting mark on how we think about housing and design to this day. You can see here that since all the walls are metal panels, anything you want to hang on the wall is typically hung using a magnet or hook that has a magnetic back. Since there is no way to put any nails logistically into the metal. In the kitchen here, you can see an original 1950s refrigerator, fan, and radio, along with this pretty unique setup here where you can go ahead and take this top off and you can either use this attachment to do the laundry, or you can grab an additional attachment underneath, and if you place that in there, you can actually do your dishes in the same spot. They really took a lot of time to incorporate all the details of a house you would see in this area, from the sparkly silver Christmas tree in the closet to a period bathroom, which definitely doesn't look inviting in today's standards, but definitely would have been something unique and exciting for the time period. After visiting the museum, I actually got the chance to drive across town to see one of the Lustron houses, which is still in use today. It was pretty cool to see it sitting there, still being used. As you exit the Lustron house, they have a display of what a 1950s backyard could have looked like. And one of the really interesting pieces they had was a bunker, which people in that time, if they had the money to afford it, could have installed in their backyard in order to protect from nuclear fallout. And if you see that handle wheel there at the top, that was actually used to lock yourself in so that no one else could try to get in. And in the house itself, in the closet, they actually had this mechanism here which could detect the amount of radiation in the air, so you knew if it was safe to get up and leave the shelter or not. And then as you exit that exhibit, they have this display of an awesome 1950s car and a classic Airstream. As we continue our way through the museum, we make it to the Indigenous Wonders of Our World exhibit. This exhibit highlights the deep history, innovation, and living cultures that exist for Native peoples in Ohio. Long before Ohio became a state, this land was home to complex societies who built communities, trade networks, and sacred landscapes that still shape the region to this day. The exhibit explores Indigenous knowledge through objects, art, and storytelling, showing how Native nations used science, engineering, astronomy, and environmental understanding in order to thrive. You'll see examples of tools, pottery, and cultural items that reflect both everyday life as well as spiritual traditions. These pieces demonstrate creativity and problem solving that was passed down through generations. Indigenous Wonders also emphasizes that Native history is not just something from the distant past. The exhibit connects ancient traditions to present-day Native communities, highlighting continuity, resilience, and cultural survival despite centuries of displacement and change. It encourages visitors to think about whose stories are often left out of traditional history narratives. By centering Indigenous voices and perspectives, the exhibit invites reflection on Ohio's earliest histories and peoples who continue to shape it today. Indigenous Wonders reminds us that understanding the past means listening, learning, and recognizing the living cultures that remain an essential part of Ohio history to this day. I had this model which shows the earthworks, as well as a map where you can find some of the ceremonial earthworks which are still here to this day. Next we enter Gallery 3. Gallery 3 is known as the Great Collections Experiment, and it's one of the most unique spaces in the museum. Instead of focusing on a single theme or time period, this gallery pulls objects from across Ohio's history and places them side by side in unexpected ways. Here you'll see everyday items, rare artifacts, and surprising objects, all sharing the same space. The goal isn't to tell you exactly what to think, but to invite curiosity. Visitors are encouraged to look closely, make connections, and ask questions about how these items were used and why they were preserved. Gallery 3 also reveals how museums work behind the scenes. It shows how curators collect, categorize, and care for thousands of objects that can't all be displayed at once. By bringing a wide range of pieces out of storage, the exhibit highlights the depth and diversity of Ohio's material culture. This gallery really reminds us that history isn't always a straight line. It's a collection of stories, moments, and objects, each with its own meaning. Gallery 3 challenges visitors to explore history on their own terms and discover what stands out to them personally and what objects might represent their own experience and history. One of my favorite pieces in this exhibit was a taxidermized two-headed calf, which was born in 1915 and donated to the Ohio History Connection in 1975. They also had this guitar, which was from 2016 when the RNC National Convention was held in Cleveland, Ohio. Next, we enter the Made by Hand exhibit. In this exhibit, we explore the textiles, furniture, glassware, and ceramics that are held within the Ohio History Connection's collection. And you can learn about the tools used to craft these beautiful and functional items, from chairs and glassware to weaving and sewing. Here they have this costume which was worn by Flippo, the King of Clowns. He was a famous clown who did a popular children's show starting in 1953. Next, the changing exhibit for the Ohio History Center is currently titled Ohio Through Time, and it shows how Ohio has consistently evolved over thousands of years. This exhibit moves through major eras from indigenous societies and early settlements to industrial growth and modern life, highlighting how each generation has reshaped the state. Through artifacts, images, and interactive displays, Ohio Through Time explores changes in technology, transportation, work, and daily life. Visitors can see how innovations brought opportunity, but also challenges as communities adapted to new economic and social realities. What makes this section unique is its focus on transition. Rather than isolating moments in history, it connects them, showing how decisions made in one area influence the next. Ohio Through Time reminds us that history isn't static. It's an ongoing story shaped by people, places, and change. Along with this horse carriage, they also had a working water-powered mill. Falling water directed against a wheel was the only practical source of mechanical energy until the invention of the steam engine. In Ohio, as well as elsewhere, this power was harnessed to provide the energy for multiple industries, including grain, saw, wood, and paper mills. And that was all the exhibits to see in the basement level of the Ohio History Center. So now let's head upstairs one floor to check out the atrium space. It was such a stunningly designed atrium. All the natural lighting felt great on a cold, wintry day, and you could take a moment to slow down after all the exploring and imagine the thousands of other guests who have stopped here to rest after visiting either the museum or the archives. They also had on display up here an Alliance A1 Argo biplane, a Lola T8 race car, and a Winston automobile. As you followed the exhibit around towards the tables and chairs that were available for sitting and taking a brief rest, I came across this entryway, which is now only an emergency exit, but this was actually originally where guests were intended to enter the building. You would park right out front there, come up, and the first thing you would see was the atrium. And then you could either go downstairs to see the exhibits for the museum, or upstairs you could go to the archives. So now with that, let's go ahead and take the elevator up one story to see the reading room in person. The reading room is open during visitor hours, so if you come to the museum, you should be able to go upstairs and take a look at it for yourself. As you get off the elevator, they have a hide and seek exhibit for the younger ones to try to find different items that are hidden throughout the exhibits, and it also talks about the responsibility of archiving and curating information. And as we enter the reading room, you really just have to stop for a moment to take it all in. The Ohio Archive, Library, and Reading Room is designed to reflect both purpose and preservation. Its open layout, strong horizontal lines, and exposed materials echo the building's brutalist architecture, creating a space that feels solid and intentional. Natural light filters through into the room, highlighting the long reading tables and emphasizing clarity and focus. The design reinforces the idea that this is a place built for careful study, durability, and long-term protection of Ohio's historical records. Even the detail of this small dome circular exit sign was fun to see. And that brings us to the end of the tour. So, of course, I had to make a quick stop on the way out at the gift shop. They definitely had something for everyone in there, from postcards and kids' toys to even a whole section of books on the role that Ohio played in aviation history. Thank you guys so much for joining me on today's trip. I hope you learned a lot just like I did. Like and subscribe for more, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!